Hello friends, it's Chris Angel coming at you for another episode of Marketing for the Rest of Us. And today's episode is spicy. It is it is spicy. I never talk about politics because of how divisive it is. And yet today we're talking about politics. However, we're not talking politics from a political perspective. We're talking about politics from more of a sociological perspective, a psychological perspective, whatever perspective you want to say there. Like, we're looking at this from a different view than policy. Today we're looking at this from a place of what's really happening. So I'm not usually interested in politics, and I don't really fit in any political party's box. I wouldn't say I'm a Republican. I wouldn't say I'm a Democrat. So I guess that makes me somewhat independent. Okay, fine. But what's interesting is I'm super drawn in the last several weeks to all of this impeachment stuff around Donald Trump. And when I go online as an independent, nonpartisan type of person, looking at what's happening, I can get either one side story or I can get the other side story. And I, being removed and not attached to either side, can see that both sides are clearly attached to their story. Like, it doesn't feel partial in either newsfeed, either media, right? So either we're right, or one side says we're right, the other side says we're right. And so what happens is we get stuck in this, I think from the outside looking in, it looks like a shit show. Like, other countries might think this, people in our own country might think this, and people from both sides of the aisle think this. We're like, what is going on? And so it's easy. I could just picture my mom in the middle of this. I think my mom was, very clearly a Democrat. I think my mom would say something like, "Oh, I'm just so concerned about the country, like everything's falling apart," and other people are, and I've heard this from other people, right? Like, people are just pissed. And so it's very easy in the space of the pissedness of it all, to start to attach yourself to the story. I remember it was years ago now when we I heard something about meditation, some type of self-work, that when you're meditating, if you can separate yourself from the story of your life, right? You are not you. You as a spirit, you as consciousness are not the ego having the life you're having. If you can step back and look at it from the top down, you can actually see a separation in, like, up. I am me up here as spirit looking down on the person having a life. When you can, I think Eckhart Tolle has some great commentary on that, right? That there is a voice, there is a person, you as a person having a life, and then there is spirit, right? Our spirit who is not that. And if you can create that separation and look down on your life, you can actually see your life for what it is. You can actually observe things happening without being attached to the story you're currently living in. Okay, now take that and apply it to the current political situation, where what's happening is everybody's connected to their story, or the story of it that they're most attached to. And everybody's fighting about what's right and who's right and all that. So what I'm inviting you to for a second is to remove yourself from the story of it. I don't care which side of the story you're most attached to. Remove yourself from the story of it and come up here at 30,000 feet for a minute and look down on what's happening. And I invite you to look at or to reframe what's happening right now from "this is a shit show" to "this is what has needed to happen." I'm not saying it's comfortable. I'm not saying it's right. I'm just saying, like, in the space of humanity, right? If there is something my wife offended me, I'm offended because my wife said something or looked at me a certain way or whatever, and I hold on to that, and I don't say anything about that. The longer I hold on to it, the more passive aggressive I get, the more irritated I get, and when it finally comes out, it comes out not constructive, right? It comes out like a shit show, right? Welcome to me. It comes out like a shit show. But it is exactly in having the hard conversation, It is exactly in airing out. This is how I felt offended. And then my wife could say, this is how I felt offended. And we have this conversation where things start to come into the light. The things that were in the shadow are now coming into the light. And in that light, something new can be created. And I think we have yet to see what the new thing to be created is. I think we're still in the middle of a cathartic healing. I think we are all airing ourselves. I looked up cathartic earlier. Here's what it says. Ready? Providing psychological relief through open expression and strong emotions. A catharsis or cathartic. Cathartic means providing psychological relief through open expression and strong emotions. Is that not what's happening in the political environment right now? Things that have never been expressed this much with this much emotion are coming to light. The things we've buried in the shadow for decades as partisan people. I'm a Democrat. I'm a Republican. All of those things we've done as egos in humanity, we've suppressed into the shadow. And now, rather than it being a shit show, things are actually coming to light from all sides. It's not about one side or the other thing coming to light. It's the whole process. It's the whole system that is coming to light. And those of us who aren't in the trenches of it, like me, who can sit back here and go onto Google and search for the latest news on all of it, I can sit here and see all the different things that are coming to light. And what's happening is questions are coming up that weren't coming up before. I think as citizens in the past, what we've done is we would say things like, or at least this is me, and I don't think I'm far off from most citizens. Well, the government will handle it. You know, politicians will work it out. I'm just over here living my life, doing my thing. But now that all of this stuff is getting stirred up, this stuff has festered, and now it's rising. I, as an uninvolved person, am now getting involved in looking at it, and I'm starting to ask questions. And it's in the asking of the questions that things start to come to light. And it's in the light that we get to start to create what we actually want to create. It's in the light that we get to create something new. So you can see this is not a political commentary as much as it is a spiritual commentary and a healing commentary. I think what our nation is doing right now is healing. It doesn't feel that way. It doesn't look that way. It doesn't sound that way. But I think in order for us to heal and to create something new, you have to go through these hard conversations in order to get to cathartic healing. That's what's happening right now. And we are not on the other side, and we can't see a light at the end of the tunnel yet. But I can recognize what is happening. I recognize this. Let me say it that way. Like, this looks familiar to me. If I look in my own life at the times and places where I've buried things in the shadows and didn't want to talk about them, and then the time came that I had to talk about them, you just go, okay, there's no way around this. I have to go through it. And so you go through it because that's what there is to do. And right now, our country is going through it. We're going through it. There's no way around it. We can't put it back in the box. We are now going through it. And what will come out the other side, my guess, what will come out the other side, because this is how we are as a species, we will come out the other side creating something new. I don't know what that is yet. But we, as a people, are in the middle of it. We're in the middle of it. Here we go. Like, you might as well just strap on now and settle in for the show, because now we're going through it. Okay, so how does this apply to your business and your marketing? Well, here's the deal. I think that there are a lot of things in our life that we suppress into the shadows. Now, this could be people in your life that you haven't said the things you want to say, and so you are passive aggressive, or you're frustrated, angry, whatever. Or this could be just you and yourself. Like, there are all sorts of things that you haven't wanted to look at for yourself, and you haven't wanted to go through them. And so you try every other means possible. You try every other, to use the political metaphor here, use every other policy possible. Let's create a policy to try to go this way. Let's try to go that way. And you try to sidestep the hard truth. You try to sidestep the hard path through the cathartic healing. And in order for you to really live into your potential, you can't sidestep the hard stuff. there are some decisions that you have to make, and those are going to be hard decisions, and you keep trying to sidestep them so you don't have to make them. Or in your marketing, there are some messages that you really want to say. Like what you really want to say to the world in your marketing is something very different than what you're saying now, but it represents to you too much risk. There's too much rejection attached to the message you think you feel called to share. And so you try to sidestep it, but you know every time you sidestep it that you're not living into your potential. It's only in going through it, going through the hard part, having the hard conversations, that we get to the cathartic healing where we start to redeem our purpose and start to create something new. You, stuck in the space you're stuck in your life, know that you've been wanting to create something new, but you don't get to create something new until you go through the cathartic healing. Again, cathartic is providing psychological relief through the open expression of strong emotions. Which brings us to actionable items. Like what do we do with this? How do we actually get the cathartic healing in our own lives and our own business? Well, I think the open expression of strong emotions happens as you start to embrace what it is you're here to do on this planet. And if you're in this tribe, my guess is that you're here to heal and to serve. You want to impact and inspire others to the lives they know they're capable of. Or maybe they don't know, but you know that they're capable of. And there is something standing in your way of stepping into the fullness of who you really are and what you're really here to do. And you can suppress the hard conversations into the shadows. Then if you do, you'll kick that can down the road for decades like our politicians have. And it will come out at some point in this lifetime or another. It will come out like this. It will come out like a cathartic healing. It will come out like a psychological relief. We want to call it that. Like what's happening right now is a psychological relief. All the parties saying what they want to say. That's the psychological release. But here's the good part: it's relief through, right? It's the relief is happening, and the healing comes through the open expression of strong emotions. So my invitation to you is to begin to lean into the things you've been avoiding, all the strategies you've created to sidestep the hard path to what it is you're here to do. Yeah. So that's a heavy episode today. Woo, I can feel it. It's heavy. And I think that's part of it, right? Like I think a lot of us don't want to feel the heaviness. We try to avoid the heaviness of it. And that's why we try to sidestep it. But what I'm telling you is like the good stuff happens through the hard path. Like you have to earn that. My wife and I had some hard times early in our marriage, and we earned it. We earned the relationship. We went through the hard times. We went through the hard times, and we got to the other side for understanding where we could create something new. So it's the same in your business. It's the same in your marketing. I believe that your marketing is where all things in your business start to get clear, because your marketing is simply the thing you want to say to the world. Your business is the way you solve that thing you want to say in the world, but your marketing message is the platform. It's the banner of what it is you're here for, and your business is the way that you fulfill that. But it all starts with what it is you want to say. So if you'd like help with what to say, I do have a course that helps you identify what it is you want to say to the world, so that you can lead that conversation. And you can get that free course at groundswellmethod.com. The course is called Marketing for the Rest of Us, the course. And you can get that at groundswellmethod.com. Thanks for hanging out with me in this deep, heavy conversation of cathartic healing. I think that's cool. This is the cool part about marketing, when you can let's just be transparent. Let's say what there is to say. Let's be authentic. We don't need to get in an argument politically, but let's at least look at what's happening for what it means for humanity, and get an accurate take on what's really going on. And not only in politics, but now I'm saying to you, get a look at what's really going on for you. Take a step back, separate yourself from your ego and your story, and start to look at what's happening. What is there to do? Is there a cathartic healing happening for you? And if there is, step into it and stop sidestepping it. Thanks for hanging out with me today in this episode of Marketing for the Rest of Us. And until tomorrow, when we have maybe a cheerier episode, good night.